Hey everyone, how's it going? So it seems like you guys really like the Diamond Minimum Battles run. It was really cool. I finally got to use Kadabra in a run. Sadly, if you want to see the best Pokemon ever, my all-time favorite used, this will not be the video for it. As I mentioned in the Diamond and Pearl Minimum Battles video, this Platinum Minimum Battles challenge is going to be completely different for reasons we will discuss shortly. However, in case you are new to the Minimum Battles challenge, welcome. As the name suggests, we try to beat Pokemon games by battling the least amount of times. This counts any battles against trainers, whether it be a win or a loss. You can't just lose repeatedly, that's multiple battles. And wild Pokemon are okay as long as you run away the very first turn. If you don't, it also counts as a battle, meaning we can't catch Pokemon or train against wild Pokemon. Kind of a cool minimalist run. Also, to make things a little bit more challenging, we're not going to be using items in battle, which is pretty fun. So now that the rules are out of the way, let's talk about our biggest choice we have to make in this run, our starter. Now in Diamond and Pearl, because of HM purposes, we had to pick Piplup. There was no other option because of all the various water HMs. Piplup's really good at that. One HM it can't learn, however, at least until it evolves, is Prinplup. And this is important because we're going to need it to use Rock Smash before we have enough experience points to evolve it. This means we're going to be starting with either Chimchar or Turtwig. People got really mad last video I underpronounced the second T, so Turtwig. There you go, y'all are happy. Anyway, Infernape is one of the best starter Pokemon ever, so I wanted to see first if we could do a run with it. I don't think we'll be able to get by Rourke, but if we do, that would be awesome. Now, one difference is, unlike Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald, and Diamond and Pearl, you actually battle the rival right away, as opposed to a wild Pokemon. They seem to go back and forth on that. And that is our first battle, where we definitely have to win. We need the experience points, and thankfully Chimchar does a good job. Diamond and Pearl had 89 battles, one of the most we've seen in the entire series. Platinum is typically considered a more complete game, so that means more battles, less battles, the same battles? Let's find out. But first, rather than tell you about my sponsor, I'm gonna rap it. No, seriously, I am. Hit it! A big shout out to Boot.dev, the sponsor of today's video. You can learn back-end web development in Python, SQL, and Go, and more. Today, I was learning how to do loops. It was tricky, that is no lie. Wicka, wicka, woo. But when I needed a little help, I asked Boots, the helpful AI. Go, Boots, go! Here at Boot.dev, well, they understand that learning sometimes is lame, so lame. So they make sure that you're never bored, and even have mechanics from games. Oh my god! Now, the content is all here for free if you want to just read it and watch. Boring, but if you want to try the hands-on stuff, don't worry, I gotch. Yeah, just click my link. Click my link. It's in the description or the comment on top. Right there. And if you use my code JRose11, you can get 25% off for a year if you choose the annual plan. Alrighty, so picking it back up on Route 201, there are 3 mandatory trainers. I believe they have slightly different Pokemon here than they do in Diamond and Pearl. Not that it really matters, they're all fairly easy for Chimchar to knock out. The next battle is against our rival once again. This battle can be fairly difficult. At least it was in Diamond and Pearl for Piplup. I actually forgot to heal. I go for Ember versus Starly, and it goes for Growl, which is a problem. I actually knock it out in 2 hits. But the big question will be, how do I do versus the Piplup? I go for Ember, it goes for Growl, so I think I just have to keep going for Ember. If I get a burn, that could be really, really good. It starts going for Pound. I mean, the great thing is it's not really attacking me. So if I just keep spamming Ember, eventually this should work. Unfortunately, Pound does quite a bit more, but once it knocks me down to past 1/3 of my HP, Ember actually does 50% more. And you'll see I take a long look at my stats. I'm really trying to figure out if Rourke will be possible. Rourke is actually the next battle. Surprisingly, there are no mandatory battles on the way to Orberg City. Nor are there any mandatory trainers in Rourke's gym, by the way. But let's see how we do against Rourke. He has 3 Pokemon. A Geodude, an Onix, and a Cranidos, and we're only at level 10. And unfortunately, the Geodude has 90% accurate Rock Throw, which immediately pretty much knocks me out. So, yeah, this isn't happening, right? I mean, I try it one more time, but as much as I would love to use Chimchar for this challenge, with the restrictions we have in place... Hey, wait a minute, we just knocked out a Geodude! Nice! Unfortunately, we're at 3 HP, and Onix outspeeds and knocks us out. So there is absolutely no chance we're going to get by Cranidos. And so, sadly, we're going to have to reset. And now, since we know Chimchar is impossible, and we know Piplup can't learn Rock Slide, our hopes and dreams are now fully dependent on the grass starter, Turtwig. We're not going to show the first 6 battles, although the rival battle was actually a lot more annoying with Turtwig, but I got through it. We're going to skip right back ahead to Rourke and see how Turtwig does. Alrighty, so Rourke Part 2, this time with a Turtwig. And Turtwig does have Absorb, but I'm going to go for Withdraw first. Critical hits aren't that likely. Okay, I mean, they're not, but the idea is we're going to need to have pretty good defense, especially for Cranidos. It actually has some pretty strong physical attacking moves. So let's try that again. 1 withdraw, Rock Throw, 2 withdraws, Rock Throw miss, 3 withdraws, Rock Throw. It feels like Gen 1, 4 withdraws, another Rock Throw, and hey, look at that. I have the Quick Claw equipped from Jubilife because figured that might help. Anyway, we have fully set up. We go for Absorb with the Overgrow boost. We one-shot and we level up to level 11. By the way, I reset many times for this Turtwig. Unfortunately, Onix immediately goes for Screech, and that's really frustrating because I just finished setting up and Absorb doesn't one-shot. Then it goes for Rock Throw, so I am +4 in defense, making it to Cranidos. I also level up again, and here's Cranidos, and it goes for Headbutt. It's only doing 6. That's good, but I'm not doing all that much. And now I'm only +3 after that Leer. Getting a little scary. Headbutt's doing 7. That's okay. And now, oh, it doesn't heal. That's right, because Rourke already used the potion. So we get Razor Leaf a little too late, but first try victory against Rourke. Not bad for Turtwig. And there is a pretty solid chance, by the way, I'm not sure that this will be our main. I still have 3, maybe 4 possibilities for mains, and I kind of want to test them all out, but it may end up just being Torterra. We'll see. There's a lot of options, which makes Platinum a really, really, really cool run. For now, though, unlike in Diamond and Pearl, this is going to be a change. Remember, we caught Machop to eventually get Abra. We're not going to be doing that. We don't need to, because Turtwig, as we talked about several times, can Rock Smash, and we can head to Flormona Town. What's that? It's Floromona Town, and if you don't pronounce the second O enough, people think you're saying Flormone. I didn't say Flormone Town. I said Flormona Town. Floromona Town. It's like Toronto versus Toronto. It's if you're from Flormona Town, you know how it's pronounced, okay? I can't help you guys who are from Hoenn or Kanto. You know, y'all don't know the Flormona Town lingo. So excuse me from being a Sinnoh OG, even though I was originally from Kanto, and then Johto, and then Hoenn. Would that make what I'm doing now regional appropriation? Is that the problem? Y'all think I'm not truly Sinnoh enough to use the Flormona Town? I don't know. By the way, as I've been yapping about pretty much nothing, we had a double battle with Dawn that, well, actually a multi-battle. Excuse me. I can't say anything wrong or people get so mad. I'm kidding. But in seriousness, we did have a double battle that went well, and we're ready to proceed. I don't remember if I showed this last time, but this is where you get Rock Tomb. Just before you get to the town that shall not be named. All right, I'll stop, I promise. But on the way to said town, there actually are no mandatory battles either, which is pretty nice. There's a lot of routes in Diamond, Pearl, Platinum that look like there should be mandatory battles, but, and this is what I hate doing, apparently there are ways to manipulate the spinners, but here is the problem. The way I'm playing the game, it is very difficult to manipulate them. So that's just something I have to deal with. I try to walk back and forth, but there are no mandatory trainers. Take my word for it. No, we don't have to battle until the Valley Wind works. It's a fairly easy battle. And then 2 more grunts in the meadow of city we will not talk about, which is not a city, it's a town. None of them are overly difficult, although having a grass Pokemon versus poison Pokemon is slightly tougher than a water Pokemon. But our 11th battle is Mars. This battle tends to be quite tough. So I do have Return. Return is gotten in Platinum right away. You get it immediately from Dawn/Lucas. So that's really helpful. It's not quite at base 102 power yet. My friendship isn't maxed, but it is enough to knock out Zubat and get me to level 16. Purugly comes out here, and it goes for Fake Out. I then get Quick Claw, which I still have, but Feint Attack's enough to knock me out. So, like in Diamond Pearl, this is going to be difficult. And this time I actually only have 1 Pokemon as opposed to the 2. Now, maybe there's a couple things I can do. There's Stealth Rocks, I could use that. There's Oranberry for extra health. I don't know, there's a lot of options here. I don't know which one to use. And unfortunately, there is an additional option that sucks, but would work really well. I mean, I mentioned Return isn't doing the most because my friendship isn't max, but there's a really slow and tedious way I could fix that by just running back and forth. And sadly, that's exactly what I'm going to do for a little bit. Now, this comes up occasionally, but when I mention win or lose, obviously if you reset, it doesn't count. These aren't speedruns. I mean, it'd be cool if someone did it like that. These are just theory crafting, so of course I'm going to try various things, save, reset all the time, including trying different Pokemon, like Chimchar, Turtwig. I don't do research before these videos are the research part of it. It is up to you, viewer, if you want to do these runs yourself and make them optimized. This is just kind of seeing, is this possible? Is it reasonable? What's it like? And yeah, the rest of it is for you guys to figure out. That's beyond my J-Rose level of expertise. Heck, apparently I can't even pronounce things in this game properly, let alone be a master of it. So after quite a bit of running, I was fairly convinced I had maxed out my friendship. And so against Zubat, I'm going to once again use Withdraw strats, but only 1 this time because Leech Life is doing a decent bit of damage. You can see Return is doing more, and we get a very clutch Toxic Mist from Zubat. We are now at 32 HP. I wasn't sure exactly, I knew I was going to level up. Purugly uses Fake Out, I flinch, it goes for Scratch, I go for Rock Smash, and I think I've got Quick Claw. I'm gonna go Razor Leaf because, ooh, nice crit! And I think that's the game. Oh yes it is, there's only 2 Pokemon here. So that was a combination of Overgrow plus the enhanced critical hit rate that Razor Leaf has. Now Curse might be better than Withdraw for a little bit of sacrifice to our speed. And don't forget, I do have the Quick Claw. We will get a boost to both attack and defense. Sadly, Turtwig is one of those Pokemon that doesn't evolve at level 16, but it will evolve fairly shortly. And the theme of routes where you think there's going to be a mandatory battle, but really it's just a bunch of spinners, 205 is there. So we're going to slowly, because they're still wild Pokemon and trainers that like to spin, and you got to just get past them. And if you run, they see you, so you have to walk. It's very frustrating. Also, if you're getting items you don't need, it makes it even longer. There we go. But yeah, we're going to... Saving is important. A lot of saving, a lot of resetting. But eventually we're going to make our way into the forest. And once again, those who are not in the Sinnoh know call it Eterna Forest, like eternal? Eternal? What, it's going to be around forever? No, it's Eterna after its founder, Harmonia Eterna. Fun fact, N may have been named after Harmonia I'm making this up. This is real. It's probably Eterna, but whatever. Once again, there are 2 double battles here. In fact, it's the same thing, the Pachirisu and the Wurmple. Now, Razor Leaf would be kind of great because it hits both Pokemon, but Wurmple is resisting. I don't know, I probably should just use it. After this battle, we will have a Grottle, which should, in theory, help us for Gardenia. And as I said, after I won the battle, I actually had to reset a few times. This battle was actually kind of tough. We do get the Grottle. Then we can proceed to Eterna City. There are no trainers along the way, and there is actually another big change from Diamond Pearl to Platinum. The gym in this city has been completely redone for whatever reason. Some gyms, like Rourke's, are pretty much identical, and some have been adjusted. This is one that has been adjusted to do kind of this flower clock thing, but what's important is there's actually one fewer trainer. So Gardenia, rather than being the 19th battle, is going to be the 17th battle. The other battle we saved, of course, was not catching that Machop. It was indeed an extra battle, but we needed it to save. Well, we needed it because we actually couldn't complete the run without an additional Pokemon in that game, and it saved time with the teleport strat. Now, one thing that isn't changed about this gym is that all the trainers are mandatory. You cannot skip any of them. So, like I said, we're going to be at battle number 17 for Gardenia. Or is it Gardenia? I mean, it's for I'll stop. Maybe. I don't promise. I'm actually just having fun. Just be aware, I don't take any of this seriously. I just find it really funny, because give me voice acting if you want me to pronounce it properly. Turtwig versus Grottle. And we're actually going to, I think, let's go for return. Reflect. All right, now we should set up curses. So one curse, it goes for Sunny Day. That's fine. Not really relevant to me. Grass Knot is a special move, so I'm not getting any stronger versus it, but it's not doing very much, so we can set up another curse. And let's set up another curse. Why not? We're at 34 HP. Reflect fades. And Grass Knot, I'm at 25. I go for return. So now if I can tank these attacks, I'm going to win. Grass Knot, ooh, that did a lot. We do knock out Rose Raid, but sadly, unless Bite, ooh, that's a good move. I could use Bite, but I can't get... This is the problem with HMs. I would get rid of Rock Smash, but of course, I cannot delete HMs. A Dark move could actually prove useful, but yeah, I'm just thinking about... I'm looking ahead. This is a tough call. I'm going to get rid of... No, I'm just not going to use Bite. I'm just not going to. And now I need Quick Claw or I lose, and yeah, after all that, I lost. All that thinking just to lose. Sadly, just like in Diamond and Pearl, Gardenia is not easy, and this is the strat I came up with winning. I go for Curse right away. It goes for Sunny Day, the Turtwig does, and yeah, I'm just going to spam curses, but I need to be smarter about it. I figured that 3 was the right number. It does enough to knock out the Rose Raid. The Quick Claw really helps. And the idea was I would have enough HP for Cherim. Sadly, this time it went for Stun Spore, which is actually, in a way, kind of worse. But turns out the 3 was a range, actually a favorable range I was getting, so it actually should have been 4. This time, I actually get rid of Razor Leaf for Bite. I know. Crazy to get rid of my same type move for a dark move, but I think I'm going to need it. And then Cherim, I didn't know how many it would take, and sadly, Return does enough for it to heal. I get paralyzed, but Cherim, thankfully, oh, well, if I get paralyzed a few times, it will knock me out. But it doesn't do all that much with Grass Knot, and this took a few attempts, and I made a mistake, so this could have gone a lot better. Also, recall that in modern Pokemon, Stun Spore cannot paralyze a Grass Pokemon. It has no effect on Grass Pokemon, but not in Generation 4. So we do have Grass Knot for a Grass move, but going forward, I did want the Dark move, since unlike in Diamond and Pearl, where our next gym leader is the fighting type trainer Maylene, in this game, it's actually Fantina, a dark type trainer. And considering there is a solid chance Grottle is our main, I want it with a move that is super effective. Alright, so skipping ahead a bit, we have to go and do the Team Galactic section. I should mention I spent about 40 minutes getting the fossil I needed. Now, which fossil you get is dependent on your ID number. I believe because of my ID number, I'm going to get Cranidos again, or Cranidos. I actually don't know how to pronounce it. But one very, very interesting thing about the HQ here is that there is a fake path and a real path. And the real path doesn't have a trainer that battles you, and the fake path does. So, because of that, you actually can just not battle any trainers on the, like, really. So that one's the fake path, right? The scientist. But watch this. I'm going to reset and then start the game over. And the real path, it looks like a grunt. Fake. Doesn't see you. So that is 3 less battles, which is good for minimum battles, but bad for my Groddle that now has to face a skunk tank that it doesn't have a good matchup against. It's important to note that unlike Monferno, which does get the fighting type immediately, Groddle is still pure grass. So yeah, we're down 5 battles, 4 that give experience points over Diamond and Pearl. We still are at a pretty good level at 23, and I use Curse here. Sadly, I had to get rid of Return. We can get it back later, but I needed to teach Cut. Sadly, even with my curses, I'm not able to one-shot the Zubat, and now I have to face Skunk Tank with just Cut. Unfortunately for me, it gets a crit, but yeah, there's really no other option here. Groddle can learn Cut. I need Cut to enter this building. This is looking pretty bad. This is not looking good. And yet, in the very next battle, we go for Curse. It goes for Wing Attack. Another Wing Attack. Another Curse. And then another Wing Attack. Another Curse. So we're +3. And then I'm at 24 HP, knocking out the Zubat. I need the Quick Claw activation and probably a crit. I get Smokescreen. And I get a crit. It still wasn't enough to knock it out. It goes for Night Slash, but turns out I actually have really good defense. Who would have thunk? Curse did its job. So that actually wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. I think I really overestimated how much damage Skunk Tank would do. I mean, it's a fully evolved Pokemon and Night Slash is the same type move, but yeah, it just doesn't actually do that much. Also, now that the grunts are gone, or the scientist in this case, I can go and grab these items. It does suck that a Pokemon that ideally would have Return and Razor Leaf has to use Cut and Bite, but that's just the nature of a minimum battles run. We're going to be getting another Pokemon soon. Sadly, none of the Pokemon I can get right now will learn Cut, and it isn't until I get to an HM Deleter I even have the option of getting rid of Cut. Now, this is the first Pokemon that is unique to Platinum, and it is the reason we don't need Kadabra. We're going to be getting a Togepi. Now, in theory, I could use this Togepi by evolving it into a Togekiss, and I could use that as my main. Togekiss is a pretty decent Pokemon. It isn't as good without the Fairy typing, which obviously is not a thing in this generation. So maybe I won't. It's something I'm considering doing. Getting a good Togepi is annoying. It needs a good nature, which Lonely isn't. The right ability, Serene Grace, and at level 1, it's hard to tell its stats, but you can kind of tell if they're good or bad. So I did a lot of resetting here for a good Togepi, because in case that's going to be the Pokemon we use, I want it to be the right one. I don't want to have to get through 70% of the game, figure out Togepi should have been my main, but uh-oh, I got the wrong Togepi, and if I had the right Togepi, I would have done better. It sucks. I don't like that. This was a long and tedious process, but thankfully, I both have Togepi and enough Pokemon seen that I can get the experience share, for which if I use Togepi, it will be quite good. However, Togepi is actually awful, so I don't want to use that. Instead, I'd like to use a Pokemon that is actually somewhat sort of decent, like Togetic. And thankfully, the way Togepi evolves is through friendship. Now you get the Soothe Bell really early on in Platinum, and I even had it when I had to friendship up my Turtwig with Return. We're going to have to bike back and forth and back and forth and back and forth to not max out, but nearly max out friendship, so that when Togepi does get any amount of experience points, it will immediately become a Togetic. Now, I often don't refer to the bottom screen, but on the bottom screen, you can see that when I press it, although you can't see my finger, but there is an app that shows you friendship, and I thus can tell without having to use any sort of external tools or just guess and check. I'll know when Togepi has enough friendship to evolve, which is nice, but this was a very tedious process. By the way, regardless of whether or not we use Togepi as our main, we need a flying Pokemon anyway to avoid an extra battle after, well, in this case, after Crash or Wake. So yeah, this is completely mandatory. Maybe not necessarily right now, but why not, right? All right, well, after what seemed like hours of doing this, I'm able to carefully get by all the trainers to get back south to Orberg and exchange the fossil for Cranidos. And that is our third Pokemon. We've gone from 1 Pokemon to 3, and maybe we could use that as our main, but nah, I don't think that's a good idea. Although it is level 20, so it's a possibility, but yeah, that one I don't really think would work, but hey, it's an option. Oh yeah, and by the way, I actually did a detour under Route 206. Well, I guess on it, but under the cycling part of it. I headed into Wayward Cave. You don't actually have to battle any trainers, and you can get Gibble there. Of course, not in this run. That would be a battle. But you can get both a Rare Candy and Earthquake, which is pretty good. Now, going to Mount Coronet on Route 207 doesn't require any battles because you can just take this one-way ledge. However, going back would require... You can skip that hiker. He's annoying, but there is a mandatory double battle that is just to the left that you can't see. It's off screen. I showed it in the Diamond Pearl video, but in order to skip that, we're going to need a Pokemon with Fly, which thankfully in this game isn't a problem, but required Kadabra in Diamond and Pearl. I still like talking about that. It's so darn cool. What isn't cool is this second hiker. There are 2 hikers on Route 208. Now, in Diamond and Pearl, both of them are spinners. This guy took a while, but he looks away. This guy, however, in Platinum only, doesn't move. He will just stare, and stare. And I couldn't remember if he was a spinner, so I had to go back and check my sheet. And sure enough, yeah, in Diamond and Pearl, he moves. So we are -5 right now, but we're about to be -4 after we battle him. And this is a trainer where we need to decide what our main is going to be. If it is going to be Togekiss, we need to start leveling up Togekiss. And this is where modern technology really helps me. Since I can now back up my saves, I can essentially, without having to play through this, it's been 2 hours and 40 minutes of real time, by the way, without having to do nearly 3 hours of prep work every time, I can essentially test the various scenarios and see if Torterra is the best starter. Because if it's going to be other Pokemon, they kind of need to establish themselves as viable candidates. And this would be when they have to start doing it. All right, so the strategy for this hiker, because he only has 1 Pokemon, is to use Cranidos, get the HP super low, and then let Cranidos faint, and then use Grass Knot with Togepi and a Quick Claw to get all the experience points. It's at level 8 and a Togekiss. Unfortunately, getting a good nature and stats seemed impossible. So it has gentle nature, but it is normal type, and that should help versus Fantina, but it may be kind of difficult to beat her. All right, so here was the strategy, because I can't just beat Fantina. I need to beat Fantina in such a way where Togetic gets a ton of experience points. So the idea was to weaken this Duskull to the point where after Cranidos fainted, Togetic could come out and knock it out. Of course, in this first battle, that didn't really work. You see I have the Quick Claw and even got Spatial Rend turn 1, but as much as I metronomed, it wouldn't work. Metronome is kind of a last resort. One nice thing is by being normal type, the ghost moves can't hit me. Duskull still has 3 moves that can hit me. And unlike Diamond and Pearl, she doesn't just attack at random. All right, so it took like 5 attempts, I think, for me to actually knock out this Duskull with Togetic. One of the big problems is that she can heal, and that certainly makes things annoying. But the strat was to get it down so that Grass Knot, which is far more reliable, although very weak, can knock it out. Unfortunately, it took 2, but Togetic does gain a ton of experience points, which is great. And it even gets Sweet Kiss, which confuses Pokemon, which might be super useful. So I'm at level 10 now. Haunter comes out. Now, if I weren't burned, I'd actually be pretty good here, because other than confusing me, Haunter can't actually do all that much to a Togetic. And yeah, I didn't realize that. So I try and do the same thing with Grotle, and we're obviously going very fast here. Weaken it enough so I can knock it out with a Metronome. Weirdly enough, Metronome, even if you get an attacking move, it isn't impacted by Sucker Punch. Unfortunately, I am confused. Ingrain, by the way, super helpful. But yeah, I am hitting myself and confused, and I'm burned. and then I get Explosion. Metronome's just a terrible move to use. Ah. All right, I'm going to make a really long story short, and I mean really long story. I spent an hour, like an actual human hour, and you'll notice I have Eevee in the party. This is important. We'll talk about that in just a second, but there is really no permutation where Togetic can get a bunch of experience points and win. You can win this fight and give Togetic some experience points, but it was getting to the point where I was wondering, why am I even trying this? It's so annoying. And frankly, I would never get as much experience points as I want, and even using XP share was kind of tough. So eventually, after another 20 minutes, by the way, you're only seeing like minute 40, another 20 actual minutes of just trying various stuff to get Togetic all the experience points it could get, I actually decided to stop doing this. I made a backup save in front of this hiker, and so rather than use Togepi, well, actually, we still need Togepi to get some experience points. So what we're actually going to do is lead with it, and then I actually have my Grottle with experience share so that Togepi gets 1/4 of the XP, so 126, but Grottle gets 379. Was there potentially a more efficient way to do this? Maybe, but I need Togetic for flying, and now we can show off a Pokemon we're going to get that makes this run doable, because right now, nothing we have can surf, and that's pretty darn important. But in Hearthome City, we get an Eevee from Bebe, and with that Eevee, actually two things happen. One, if I wanted to try, I probably could do the run with Vaporeon. It will need to be Vaporeon for Surf, but I do think it is 100% possible to do this run with Vaporeon. But at this point, I'd been streaming for about 5 hours, and I had in my head already kind of wanted to use Torterra. I know using starter Pokemon is lame, and I wanted to avoid it if I could, but I had planned to use Torterra, and so rather than having to do what I just did, which is waste an hour seeing, oh, maybe could I use something else? Let's just go with the original plan, and if it doesn't work, I have a backup that we can go back to, the same backup, and from there, we can get ourselves an Eevee. Speaking of Eevee, I have learned some very important things from the previous battles with Fantina, and Eevee is going to faint, but I'm going to use Sand Attack a whole bunch so this can't burn me. I am going to need Grottle to have the Quick Locks. I want to set up Curses, meaning my speed is going to be very low, and I'd really like not to be burned. So the best way to do that is just to lower Duskull's accuracy as much as I can, allow the Eevee to faint, and then try to set up. That's the strat here. So Grottle, we're going to set up one Curse. I won't do that for everyone. Will-O-Wisp misses, another Will-O-Wisp miss, 2 Curses, and then it hits. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what I was expecting. I don't know what the odds are, but I'm just going to set up 6. The bigger problem, honestly, is the loss of HP, and because of that, I'm just going to go for a bite, see how much I do here, but being burned, I'm barely doing. I think I'm just doing even, and of course, Shadow Ball is unaffected by Curse, since it is a special attacking move, and yeah, this didn't work. I can't be burned here. Now, in theory, I could use a Rostberry, but I think it would just keep going for Will-O-Wisp. Thankfully, we didn't really need to resort to that because, and I'm going to speed through this, it took a couple more attempts, but as Grottle switches in here, I'm going to set up 1 Curse. I have to be not super greedy. Getting hit with Future Sight sucks. 2 Curses, that's 2 Will-O-Wisp misses. 3 Curses, 3 Will-O-Wisp misses. And now is when I have to kind of maybe just go for it. I get 4 Will-O-Wisp misses. I'm +3 in attack. That should be enough to knock out Miss Magus. Shadow Ball does a lot, and I get a Spadef drop, but it is enough to knock out Miss Magus. I'm at 25 HP, and Haunter, thankfully, doesn't have a special move inexplicably. So Curse raising my defense helped. Of course, it could have got a crit. It is an increased critical hit move. As you saw, that did not happen. And yeah, Grottle has a pretty easy time beating Fantina. So we're going to go with that for now. And again, if we do have to resort to using Vaporeon as our main, I love Vaporeon. It's one of my favorite Pokemon. So I would like to use it. But for now, we're going to be doing the Grottle run. And in terms of our battle count, as you can see, we're at 20 battles. The game is completely different at this point from Diamond and Pearl because Maylene is farther away. She was the 28th battle, but she's all the way in Veilstone. We are actually going to battle her next. But of course, switching around the order of the gyms is a huge change. One of the few Pokemon games that did that, to be honest. Another change is that we would fight the rival, this is actually the third battle, right after this, although you'd fight him in Hearthome City before. I didn't actually mean to lead with Eevee here, and this led to a really annoying situation where the Staravia boosted its evasion. This was not what I wanted to have happen whatsoever. And I'm going to try to lower its attack, but of course, nothing is going to hit it. So I am going to just go for Curse. That will weaken Wing Attack, but although it will miss a lot, I'm also going to miss a lot. So I just try to go for Bite. I actually hit, but not enough to knock it out. And then it goes for Endeavor. What a brutal strategy. So I got to knock this out in one hit. I don't think leading with Eevee is the play here. I actually think maybe I should lead... I could try Eevee again because not getting it with Wing Attack is actually a really good thing. And as it would turn out, it is the play. I'm going to speed through this because, again, this took forever. This time, after I set up all the sand attacks, Charm does hit. So Togetic actually did come in handy. And I know I need at least 3 curses in order to knock this out. I don't want to get hit with Endeavor. For those of you who don't know how Endeavor works, it's a Gen 3 move. And basically, it sets my HP to my opponent's HP value. So, yeah, if we get it to really low HP, that's really bad for us. We still have the Quick Claw equipped. That's hard to say, but it is important because with Curse, we're really slow. We knock out Staravia. Monferno, I have to go for Cuts of all things. It's not enough to knock it out, but Monferno has a physical fire move in Flame Wheel. It does hit me twice. I'm at 10 HP. I do level up here. And Roselia, I'm going to be going hit with Stun Spore. And I'm paralyzed. And Poison Sting, but it can't poison me, but I'm paralyzed. Quick Claw then activates. Cut knocks it out. And then finally, Buizel. I actually get Quick Claw, which is super clutch, and I'm able to beat Rival 3 in... Ooh, 1 second. Do I want Mega Drain? I don't really need Bite anymore, but unfortunately, Mega Drain as a special move... I mean, gaining back HP is super great, but it doesn't combo with Curse. I'm going to think that over, but we've won the battle right now. That's the important thing. As you'd expect, I don't go for Mega Drain, even though I'd like it. Just not going to work right now. I also will have to deposit every Pokemon except for Grotle into the PC in order to avoid this optional battle with these twins. Again, unlike Generation 3, where they don't approach you, they will 100% do that, but only if you have 2 Pokemon in your party, which, like I just said, we don't. So we can actually get through this route, like many of the other routes in this game, without battling a single trainer. Now, I'd messed up because this is another big change between Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum. You don't have to go in the Lost Tower at all. I was very confused when I did, and I thought maybe I just didn't remember the game well enough, but no. There are 2 people at the top of the tower that in Platinum will give you the Cleanse Tag and Spell Tag, neither of which you need. In Diamond and Pearl, they'll give you Strength, which you do need. But in Platinum, it's Foggy, and so you need Defog, which I actually don't have yet. Anyway, we're not going to get those things, and I wasted my time doing it, but now I wasted your time telling you about it, so it's all good. One place we do have to go are the Salacian Ruins. The reason for this is that the Water Stone is located within, and there are no mandatory battles. We need that Water Stone, and I didn't remember where it was, so we have to go into every room, all of which look identical, but the Water Stone is what's needed to evolve Eevee into Vaporeon, which will eventually allow me to Surf, which is going to be super important. See, there's the Fire Stone. Anyway, I don't need to show you this. It's just, you can get all the stones here, and you can avoid all the trainers. So it's good. Oh yeah, almost forgot to mention you also get Defog in here, so coming in here, pretty important. Alright, well, for a minimum battles run, we're avoiding lots of battles, but there are 2 on Route 215, just like in Diamond and Pearl. This Rune Maniac, who has the exact same 2 Pokemon he does in Diamond and Pearl, and these really annoying Ace Trainers where this time you need 2 Pokemon on your team. Otherwise, you'll have to battle each of them separately, which would be 2 battles. We don't want that. Now, I should mention this battle is actually really, really tough because, well, the Pokemon are reasonably leveled, and it's essentially a 2v1. Since I'm only really using Groddle, this actually took me an absurdly long time to actually get done properly. Also, ideally, your other Pokemon should be fainted because otherwise they're going to split experience points and it is much more optimal for Groddle to get everything. The biggest issue is actually this Drifblim, because not only does Drifblim have Gust, which is super effective and isn't affected by Curse, but additionally, it has the Aftermath ability, which, after I use Bite, is going to take away a quarter of my max HP. So, yeah, this battle is going to be really, really difficult and will probably take me a long time. So much so that I decided not to even bother just getting to Veilstone, which was how I was going to end stream, and I actually ended it here, just pushing this off to another day. The next day. Guys, it took 44 minutes to figure out a way to beat these guys. I genuinely would love to take you through the process, but assuming this game is like Diamond and Pearl, we might be only a quarter of the way down the challenge, so I might have to just tell you how I did this, but you need to know this was one of the worst battles in the entire game. Essentially, it is just about setting up properly. Eevee actually was really useful here. I know, Eevee's really coming in clutch, but lowering accuracy is huge. I want to set up as much as possible and then get rid of Roselia because it's actually really annoying. And then Togetic and Cranidos are there. Once I get rid of Roselia, Cranidos takes a while to get knocked out, and it soaks up attacks, which is really, really, really good. Now, you might notice I have abandoned just leaving Groddle by itself. Again, I had spent 40 minutes. It is probably going to cost me a few hundred XP, but I just didn't care at this point. I just wanted this to be over. Still, Cranidos will get knocked out before the Lickitung, so I do get 4 Pokemon where it's just Groddle. I still have Quick Claw, which is going to come in clutch, but now what do I do for Drifblim? I'm already at half HP, and Gligar is not giving me any breaks here. I do get a clutch Quick Claw, and I have just enough experience points if I get another Quick Claw. No, I don't. All right, full disclosure, I meant to show the winning battle here, and I messed up my timestamps, but I guess it's good for you to see how this can go badly, but I'm actually going to skip ahead. This is the very next battle, and I just knocked out the Ralt, so Cranidos is coming in, and the biggest change here is I knock out both the Lickitung and the Gligar while Cranidos is still around. So that cost me even more experience points, but it's huge because Drifblim attacks the... Are you kidding me? Like, I knew it was going to attack. I didn't think it would get an Omniboost. Oh, we still knock it out. All right. I knew it had to attack the Cranidos. The AI loves to get the KO. So I knew that was going to happen. And once I got past Drifblim, this was the first time seeing Weasel. I knew I had it. But yeah, I had to sacrifice experience points in order to win. And again, you don't want to sacrifice experience points. You see, I'm looking at all the experience points I've lost. But I'd spent about an hour doing this fight, and I was just happy to be done. The truth is, it's not that many experience points, but in a minimum battles run where experience is limited, you don't want to lose any if you don't have to, but clearly I had to. And once we get to Veilstone, yes, we'll beat Maylene, but we're also going to get our final team member. That's right, we can get up to 5 different Pokemon, Porygon. Now, unfortunately, because Porygon requires 2 trait evolutions, it would not be a very good... Ooh, Trace is actually good. I like Trace. But it would not be a very good main. But Trace could be... I could see some niche, interesting uses for it. Otherwise, it's just fodder, which, hey, more fodder is good for Torterra. Well, right now it's still Groddle, but eventually Torterra. Skipping ahead a bit, I went into Veilstone Gym. The gym has been completely redone with these punching bags. But one thing that hasn't changed, although it looks like you have to battle a lot of trainers, you have to battle, once again, exactly 1. As you can see, you have to go to the space to finish the quote-unquote puzzle, and this guy doesn't move or anything, so yeah, he has to be battled. But after I do this tedious quote-unquote puzzle, I can finally battle Maylene. Now, I don't have a great team for Maylene, so I'm going to lead with Eevee, and that didn't work because immediately Meditite goes for Drain Punch and knocks it out. Alright, maybe Porygon can do something. Let's see. Could it weaken this a bit? No. So it looks like nothing can really help Torterra. Torterra has to just lead and I don't know. Drain Punch does a lot. I go for Curse. Remember, without Mega Drain, I have no way of gaining HP back. I can go for Bite and actually get a flinch, so that's kind of nice. I knock out Meditite due to luck, but now out comes Lucario. Drain Punch does a lot, and Rock Smash actually did more than I thought it would. Another Quick Claw. Wow, that's incredible. But Drain Punch plus... Oh, it doesn't heal. Wow, that's amazing. So we're at level 30, and now out comes Machoke. But yeah, our luck runs out. I got incredible luck there. I can't complain, but unfortunately, that's just not gonna work. I can't believe we got that far. That was insane. All right, speeding things up. As you could tell, beating Maylene now wasn't gonna work, but I had a couple ideas. Going to Route 214, you can do that right now. I won't be able to battle many trainers, but this Psychic is a mandatory trainer I can battle, and that will get me to level 30. Sadly, level 30 is not when Grotle evolves into Torterra. If it was, that would be fantastic. But I'll take an extra level. Sadly, Grotle cannot learn Dig. I can get the TM for it, but Grotle can't learn it. Again, that would be huge, but not possible. And yeah, there's other trainers on this route, but I'll just save you the time. None of them are mandatory, so there are some items, but nothing useful. Now, if you're thinking, wow, this challenge seems harder than Diamond and Pearl, it definitely is. Kadabra is really good, and the extra trainers we got are definitely beneficial. Plus, Kadabra being a traded Pokemon was super helpful since we were even higher level, and we also had Prinplup that wasn't terrible. As of now, true to its reputation, Platinum is being pretty difficult. But I do have some ideas for how we might be able to take on Maylene. Now, I actually messed up here. Togekiss is supposed to weaken the Meditite. I was going to give it Quick Claw because, well, there are various reasons, but I made a mistake. And you'll see I realize this when I see, oh, I don't have any items on it. All right, Grotle still has the Quick Claw. I had a different strategy. But notice I've evolved my Eevee into Vaporeon. This means I survive a Drain Punch, and with a Citrus Berry, am able to get off a second Sand Attack. So that's really good. I would have got off more, but no good luck yet, as Drain Punch misses Grotle, and I set up one Curse. And now we get a Drain Punch hit, but after a Curse means it does less. Second Curse, Confusion misses. Third Curse, and now I go for Bite and knock out the Meditite. Lucario comes out, I go for Rock Smash and actually get the Quick Claw, and I get the crit, which means we have just won the battle. So complaining about luck earlier may have been a little premature. Machoke goes for Focus Energy, I go for Rock Smash, and then go for Cut. I mean, guys, that was as clean of a battle as I could have hoped for. Yeah, absurdly lucky. Between the Quick Claw activations, the crit, and the defense drop, I don't even know how unlikely that was, but I don't care. We have won, almost have Torterra, and we can move on. We have to have a battle with Dawn against these grunts. It's really easy, so nothing to say here. But there is something to say as you try to enter Wake's gym. In Diamond and Pearl, you battle Barry after you beat Wake, but in this game, you have to beat him before. Now, I wasn't ready for this, so I have Torterra leading off, which means it gets intimidated by Staravia. So Togetic is going to do the really important job of getting knocked out quickly. You can see it already has Fly, and thankfully, the Staravia obliges. Now, I'm going to go into Porygon, Trace Intimidate, and get the... I told you it would be useful. Now, what am I going to do? I guess I'm going to try to get some damage on it, maybe confuse it with Psybeam, but... hopefully, yeah, see, I'm a little worried now. Okay, this is good. I'm a little worried, essentially, that I'm going to stop hitting this thing. I mean, it's not doing very much with Wing Attack. All right, this is perfect. So I'm guaranteed to knock it out with one hit from Torterra. And I think that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to go into Torterra. Oh, yeah, Endeavor. Right. Yeah. Forgot about that. That was a bad idea. And, oh, I'm all the way back here. I forgot about the berry battle. All right, I'm just going to skip ahead. All right, so this time I'm going to lead with Cranidos. I know, Cranidos actually getting used here. So what am I going to do with Cranidos? The idea is to slow down Staravia with a Rock Tomb. Problem is, hitting it is going to be kind of tough as it double teams. I missed the first two, and I do hit with number 3, which is good. But I need to be kind of careful here. If it's too weak, Endeavor is going to do a lot of damage. I swap into Porygon and lower its attack, which is good. And am I going to just knock it out with Porygon? Maybe I should. Just avoid this nonsense. I go Psybeam, and then is it going to heal here? No. Thankfully, because of the speed drop, Torterra does outspeed. I go for Rock Smash, and I hit, which is great. Now we should be in the clear. Remember, we have Earthquake from Wayward Cave, and it burns us. No! It means we don't do enough to knock out the Monferno, but I do get Quick Claw, so I knock it out here. Yay. And I'm hurt by Burn. Roselia, I go for Earthquake. We actually just outspeed that. And I get a crit. Okay, I deserve that. I'm now at level 33. I can learn Leech Seed. That could be interesting, actually. Because Leech Seed plus Curse... Alright, I can't use it right now, but here's a good thing. In Pastoria City, where we are, we do get access to the Move Relearner. Aw, so close. So close. If I don't mind losing the experience points of Weasel, we could win, but I'll just do it again. This battle actually took an embarrassingly long time because essentially Staravia was the bottleneck. I would either, in this battle, actually mess up in like 12 different ways and I still won, which is crazy, but what would happen is either I wouldn't hit the Rock Tomb with Cranidos because Staravia had hit too many double teams, and that means I wouldn't outspeed, or even if I did or didn't, I would either not get the Quick Claw or miss with Rock Smash, and thus get hit with Endeavor and lose. So I basically needed a battle where I actually ended up getting really, really lucky with a Quick Claw activation, and once I got past Staravia, the battle was easy, but getting past Staravia was a total pain. But good news for me, there are, well, actually kind of bad news because it's a minimum battles challenge. But for the purposes of this challenge, the Crasher Wakes gym has been completely unchanged. I don't know if the teams are slightly different. Maybe they are. I don't think so. Regardless, those are 4 extra battles, which in a minimum battles challenge I always hate because, you know, you want to be able to do this in very few battles. But at this point, I've been struggling so much. It's just nice to get a little bit of extra experience points. All right, time for Crasher Wake. He leads with Gyarados, meaning I'm going to lead with Porygon. Told you guys Trace would be interesting. Now we lower its attack. So there's no Endeavor. I think I can just weaken this. It goes for Waterfall, I go for Psybeam, and then it goes for Brine. Fine. All right. Now I'm actually going to go into Vaporeon, and I think I'm going to go with Sand Attack here. And then maybe Growl. Let's go for another Sand Attack. And you know what? Another Sand Attack. Eventually, it does enough damage to knock out Vaporeon, but hey, every Pokemon's kind of helping. All right, now it's Torterra time. So I go for Curse. I can't use Earthquake here, which is my best move. Waterfall misses. Gyarados misses again. I go for a second Curse. And then it goes for Brine. This is a special attack that does more if I'm at half HP or less. I go for a 4th Curse, which is very greedy. Brine misses. A 5th Curse. All right, I'm getting greedy. But Brine has got me to half. I'm going to go for Cut here. I'm at 76 HP. Cut is not enough to knock it out. But thankfully, Brine misses, and I am able to knock it out. Floatzel is next, and I'm able to get a Quick Claw Earthquake. That's pretty good. Floatzel's a physical attacker, so not super worried. And then Quagsire, it goes for Yawn, but Earthquake, it is 100 base power with all those boosts. And I have beaten Crasher Wake on my first attempt. Finally, right? Like, oh my god, this run has really been a slog lately. Maybe Torterra wasn't the right Pokemon to use, who knows? And oh my god, remember, there's an Ice Gym Leader coming up. Pretty soon, actually. This is Gym Leader number 5. The Ice Gym Leader is number 7, so we're gonna have to deal with that relatively soon, but there are gonna be a ton of battles in between, and so maybe I can come up with a good strategy in the meantime. For now, there are going to be, in theory, some easier battles before we get to battle Byron. There's a bunch of game we have to play. I call this guy the Running Grunt. He is going to be battle 34. We then get to proceed to Route 210, but don't forget, this time we have Fly, so it's going to be much quicker. And not only do we have Fly, but in the Foggy section, we actually have now Defog. Togetic can do that too, so let's go Togetic. For our purposes, this route is pretty much unchanged from Diamond and Pearl, so there are 3 mandatory battles. None of them were particularly difficult. Once we get to, now I always called it Celestic Town, but maybe it's Celestic Town because of like Celestial, I don't know. You have to fight this Grunt. He's pretty easy, nothing too difficult about him. This time, however, we actually have to battle Cyrus early. And this is a huge change, and Cyrus proved to be kind of difficult. He leads off with Sneasel, and sadly this Sneasel has Ice Punch. And although Rock Smash is double super effective, it is a range to knock it out, and Golbat is not a great matchup for Torterra. So this is not going to be an easy battle. Yikes! I'm gonna have to actually think my way through this one again. Sadly, it wasn't enough. This is the closest I got in half an hour. So, I'm leading with Vaporeon. You've seen this strat many, many times. I mean, there's only so many tools I have, but lowering accuracy and then trying to lower attack with Togetic is something I try to do desperately. Sadly, it didn't work here. Once Vaporeon faints, I have Cranidos to try and slow it down, or use Stealth Rock. Unfortunately, wasn't able to get either of them. Then I just have to set up Curses and hope. The good thing about setting up Curses is the Ice Punch, if it did hit, would do less damage. Thankfully, it doesn't hit this time. However, Golbat has Air Cutter, which both has an increased critical hit chance and is a special move, but I knock it out fairly quickly, thinking, okay, we made it to Murkrow, we're gonna win, right? Wrong. Drill Peck does a ton of damage, even with 2 curses. So, to recap, we have an Ice Pokemon, a Poison Flying Pokemon, and a pretty powerful Flying Pokemon with a powerful Stab Flying move. This battle could not be less good for a Torterra. I was stuck on this battle for half an hour, but I did do something in between that you'll notice fairly shortly. I mean, the beginning is the same. Try to lower its accuracy, try to lower its attack, just give myself more chances. I mean, in this case, I actually do get a charm off. That's clutch. I get 2 charms off. I mean, that's even clutcher. What that's going to allow me to do is to utilize my new strategy. First, Cranidos is going to come out. I can go for Stealth Rock. That's minus 25%. And I might even be able to lower, yes, I will. I lower Sneasel's speed, which is excellent. Now I need Cranidos to faint, which it does. And now Torterra gets to use its brand new strategy. Goodbye, Earthquake. Hello, Leech Seed. That's right. I had to get rid of my best move for Leech Seed. But with Leech Seed, I'm regaining HP and able to set up curses, giving me more HP than I should probably have, and more ability to gain that needed defense to tank those incredibly powerful Drill Pecks by the Murkrow. It's not even a Honchkrow yet. Finally, when I get to +4 in each, I go for Rock Smash. Golbat comes out, the Stealth Rock does a little bit of damage, Cut knocks it out, and I actually think with +4 I knock out Murkrow here. I think so. It goes for Nightshade because I have such good defense. I don't know if the crit mattered, but thanks to finding Heart Scales, and like I said, the move relearner is in Pastoria City. I sometimes confuse the 2 cities. Pastoria is the one with Crasher Wake. Canalave, where we're going in a second, has the move Deleter, and that one is where Byron's located. I don't know why. I always mix them up. Hopefully, I haven't done it, and if I do, hopefully I've caught it, but if it snuck through, my bad. But I'm going to try to catch it. But speaking of Canalave, thank you so much, Togepi, for being in this game, or Togetic, because I can just fly, save so much time. Later in the game, it's going to save a ton of time. Oh my god. But before we can get to the gym, we do have to battle the rival again. A lot of rival battles. All right, well, he leads with Staraptor, which is bad, and I lead with Porygon. You've seen this before. You know exactly what I'm doing here. Love that we can do this. But rather than letting Porygon faint, I'm going to let Togetic faint. It goes for Takedown. Why did I do that? Because I can just swap in Porygon again. Now I get 2 Intimidates. 2 is better than 1, and you know what? I think we'll just go... Actually, you know what? 2 might be enough. It goes for Double Team. I start going for Psybeam. I want this to knock me out, but that's not what it's going to do, which is a problem. It's now at +3. I do hit with a Psybeam, and I get the Confusion, which is exactly what I wanted. Now it's actually trying to hit me with Takedown, but it's not able to between its Confusion and the fact Takedown has a 15% chance of missing. Finally, it's able to hit me, but not enough to knock me out. Then it goes for Quick Attack. Remember, it does have Endeavor, so I'm going to go for Cranidos here, and I'm going to go for Scary Face, try and slow it down. Sadly, it's just way too accurate, and so I actually think I've lost. Oh, God, the rival's really annoying. I have taught Return. Oh, wait, it went for Aerial Ace. Does it not have Endeavor? Well, it doesn't matter if it gets a crit. Oh, I didn't know it doesn't have Endeavor. All right, well, that's good information. Hey, now that I know that, watch what we can do. I'm going to have to speed through this because it's going to take a really long time. But Curse Leech Seed, remember I mentioned that could be a really good strat? Well, yeah, you're going to see how overpowered that is. I can just go for Curse while it goes for Double Team. And then Leech Seed plus Curse, I'm going to be not getting damaged all that much, and then gaining back what does happen. And then, once I've gotten enough curses, I can just go for Return. I still have Quick Claw. I actually level up, which is great. And so, Synthesis, don't really need that. I do need... Oh, it's Heracross. All right, well, I guess we'll just go for Return. Aerial Ace only does 16. Return knocks it out. Very good. Infernape. All right, I'm a little scared here, and we're good. Quick Claw. That was all we needed. Battle over. Floatzel goes for Swift. We knock it out, and then Roserade goes for Toxic Spikes. We go for Earthquake. So this is perfect. I also should mention, in terms of how I'm getting these moves, I didn't actually mention this yet, I should. The Underground has repeatable heart scales. It is annoying to do that stupid mini game and having to mine for them, but you can do it. This means that while it's slightly tedious, I can somewhat infinitely swap moves, as long as they're not TM moves like Return. I can swap moves in and out as I please, and the move relearner, as you can see, has been very, very helpful since I've needed completely different move sets for these challenging battles. So in effect, unlocking Pastoria and now Canalave, I can delete Rock Smash if I want to, is really huge. Now, Canalave Gym is completely unchanged. Again, the teams might be different, but the layout and the amount of mandatory battles is the same. So that's going to be +5. And since we're at the same spot we would be in Diamond and Pearl, the games have converged, I can tell now that I am 3 battles behind, which is pretty cool. This game might actually have less mandatory battles than its predecessor. Although, to be fair, I believe both Crystal and Yellow had slightly less battles than their predecessors, albeit those games are much more similar to their predecessors. Emerald had a ton more. So I'm actually a little surprised that Platinum has what seems like, relatively speaking, so many less, but still a lot of game to go. Those of you who love long videos are feasting today, clearly. All right, time for battle 46. Byron, he leads with Magneton. No need to set up or do anything interesting here. Quick Claw, I don't even think I needed that, but we knock it out in one hit. Easy. Steelix is next. I'm once again just going to go for Earthquake. This might be a 2-shot. It is. Ice Fang, that's actually really good, but we do 2-shot it, no problem here. And then the final Pokemon is, of course, Bastiodon, which is double weak to Earthquake. This should be a 1-shot, I would assume, and it is. Recall that Sturdy in Generation 4 does not do the same thing as it does in Generation 5. That is very lucky for us, but bad for Byron. But yeah, first try victory. Clearly all the gym leaders are going to be easy like this. What's the next gym leader again? I mean, you guys know, we just talked about it, but it's going to be the Ice Gym Leader. If anything is going to ruin this run, and this is the reason I didn't want to use Torterra, it is going to be having to face a bunch of Ice Pokemon. Oh god, this could be really bad. First things first, and this completely sucked in Diamond and Pearl, but there's some Team Galactic nonsense that we need to handle. First, we need to battle Saturn. Saturn leads with Golbat, which I don't want to see, but since we have Return versus Cut, we could delete Cut too. Thank you. Oh gosh, well, we're actually only at 16 HP. We might lose. Bronzor, I'm going to go Return here, but Iron Defense, I may need to go Leech Seed. All right, Iron Defense. Okay, this is actually really good. I might set up a curse here. I can't use Earthquake because this is a levitating Bronzor, not a heat-proof one. And Shadow Ball, oh no, not a Spidef drop. I guess I have to go Return here. Yeah, that does nothing. And I'm pretty sure, actually, we might not lose to the Bronzor. But, well, for crits we will. Wow, okay. Man, this game just never lets up. I could have come up with a really cool strategy here, but I'll be real with you guys, I just brute forced it. I mean, you know, it wasn't the greatest decision I made, and probably could have gone a lot better for me if I just used all the other tools I've used this entire time. But in the end, Bronzor isn't actually usually that scary. And the final Pokemon is a Toxicroak. So we got Quick Claw, which was good enough. But yeah, that's Saturn down. That's each of the admins battled once. We're, as you know, going to have to battle them again. After doing everything we need to do at Lake Valor, then we can head to Lake Verity. I do something really interesting here. I have 2 Pokemon so that we get a double battle, since it's only 1 battle, not 2. And because neither of these Pokemon are flying Pokemon, I can go for Earthquake and then get all the experience on Torterra, as opposed to having to share it with Cranidos. So I had to deposit the rest of my Pokemon to do that, but worked pretty good. Now, unfortunately, I have to actually get those Pokemon, although I could have probably taken Vaporeon, because I need to surf, and it's better to have them anyway, just in case. Also recall, just like in Diamond and Pearl, you can surf around these grunts. Haha, take that. The water is my friend. And yeah, now we can battle Mars. Mars, of course, leads with a flying poison Pokemon. Well, it's Golbat, but of course, all the time. And Golbat goes for Toxic, which probably means I lose, but maybe I can win quick enough that this won't matter. Of course, it goes for Supersonic, which also really sucks. What I can maybe do here is refresh the poison timer, and, God, I'll go for Leech Seed. That's probably a mistake, isn't it? Yeah, this is a mistake, because I'm going to want to swap here. All right, I think I need to go into Togetic, because I need... All right, maybe I can go into Cranidos, actually. Extrasensory is pretty good. All right, and am I quick enough to set up a Stealth Rock? Oh, well, actually, I could have. I went for Rock Smash because I was just being a little lazy, but that would have been useful. Anyway, Torterra, I choose you. Unfortunately, once again, cannot go for Earthquake. I'm stuck using Return, but this one isn't going for Iron Defense, so it does actually decent damage. And now I'm going to try and fight through the confusion. I do hit with Return. And the final Pokemon, if you remember, is Purugly. I'm going to go for Earthquake. It goes for Fake Out, which is really, really, really bad. And then Slash, and now I have to hit or I lose, and I still lose. So that sucks. No battle is easy. Yeah, this one took me 5 times. I mean, it's just such a bad matchup. And this one I actually get a crit against, but we use other Pokemon in order to stall the Golbat and try to not get poisoned. That's the key. Any Pokemon I use, however, I need to make sure it faints so it doesn't gain experience points. That would be pretty bad. And then Bronzor, again, it's just Leech Seed and then waste time. Vaporeon really helps me here. It has a lot of HP, but a little too much HP because it's really hard for this Bronzor to knock it out. And I decide, who cares? I just want to be done with this. So Vaporeon's going to gain a little bit of experience points that I maybe don't want it to gain, but whatever. 292 shouldn't be too big a deal, right? But then out comes Purugly. I know it's going for Fake Out, so I swap in Vaporeon, and then I just go for Helping Hand because I went first. There's no reason. It does nothing. Now I need Torterra to help me out. It goes for Hypnosis, so actually Purugly helped me out, and that's really good. Citrus Berry there, so it's not going to heal or anything. And then I got a Quick Claw, so Torterra did help me out. Yeah. This is just a battle that's supposed to be easy, and it's taking me, like, actual strategy and luck to win. I may have messed up using Torterra, but we're still going. All right, so we're going to finally head to Snow Point City. Interestingly, on Route 216, there is a trainer that, once again, isn't mandatory in Diamond and Pearl, but is in Platinum. This trainer does not move. And I triple-checked with, like, speedrun documents. This is just a mandatory trainer, and it's Tropius, which isn't great for me, but not horrible. Anyway, I won, obviously, but still. Sadly because I'm very worried about it, there are only 2 more trainers before Candace. This Ace trainer and this Ace trainer on Route 217. As you can see, none of them are overly difficult, but now we have to defeat an Ice-type gym leader with Torterra. Let's look at her team quickly, just before this starts. So, Sneasel seems to be the biggest point of weakness, and luckily she leads with it. It does have Ice Shard, which is double super effective, but it's a physical move, meaning Curse will impact it, and it's only 40 base power. After that, we get Piloswine, which, if we have a grass move, it's super effective, but Avalanche also has negative priority. That's also true of Abomasnow, but it does have a couple special moves. The scariest Pokemon, however, is Frostlass, and when you combine it with Abomasnow's Snow Warning, potentially that is a can't-miss Blizzard, which no curses will be able to help me with. This could be absolutely brutal. And it was. I tried to lead with Vaporeon as I've done many times before, but that was very ineffective. Not only did Sneasel outspeed and one-shot me, but it has Feint Attack, so even if I lower its accuracy, it has a move to hit me with. I go into Cranidos thinking maybe I can set up Stealth Rock or Rock Tomb. Nah, Ice Shard just destroys it. So, alright, Torterra time. Let's see what happens here. I'm gonna go for Curse. It goes for Ice Shard. It has positive priority. 60 damage isn't too bad, but I have no way to gain back HP very well against Candace. I do just go for Earthquake and knock out Sneasel, but at 51 HP, I don't know, and yeah, Abomasnow. Abomasnow, I can't use Leech Seed to gain back HP. It goes for Focus Blast, which actually hits, a miracle, and Return does about half, but the hail it brings with it is enough to knock me out. And the fact it comes out second, that should be consistent, is very, very, very bad, because that means that I will have to deal with a Blizzard that can't miss. So what happens if I lead off with Torterra, you might be wondering? I mean, that makes the most sense. Well, I can knock it out immediately with Earthquake, which is good, but Abomasnow, I just don't really have much for it. And now that I haven't set up a Curse, Return doesn't do nearly as much, and it can just one-shot me with Avalanche. It's not looking very good, is it? But okay, what if we change things a little bit? We knock out the Sneasel, and then rather than use Torterra, let's try and swap things. So Togekiss, alright, sacrifice to the Avalanche, and now Vaporeon, right? This could work. If it goes for Wood Hammer, it does damage to itself. Alright, I mean, that technically is progress. And then Cranidos comes out, oh, actually, look! It goes for Avalanche, so I get Stealth Rocks, which is going to damage the last two Pokemon, not that it's really going to matter. And then Porygon, alright, Snow Warning isn't useful. And Wood Hammer, look, we've got it down to too much HP, but if I got a crit here, I would be able to knock it out, I guess. I'm going to go for Curse in case it goes for Avalanche. And it does go for Avalanche. I'm able to tank it. And I think I'm going to be able to... Oh, well, now it just outspeeds. Right. right. That's how it's going to work. Okay. That doesn't work. All right, so I have an idea, but I really didn't want to do this. It's not as bad as getting leftovers in Emerald, but it's very tedious. So on Route 221, which thankfully we can access because we have Surf and there's no mandatory trainers, there is a house. And in this house, there is an old man. And this old man will say, "I saw it! Today's number is 97! And if you show a Pokemon that has level 97, well, then he'll give you an item. The first time, this will be a Black Belt. The second time, it'll be an Expert Belt. And the third time, it'll be a Focus Sash. Now, if you reset the day properly, if you do it improperly, then the game doesn't let you do it. But if you reset the day properly, you can just kind of do this infinitely. Unfortunately, since we're in a minimum battles run, I can't just go out. I mean, level 97 wasn't going to happen. But I have a level 46 Pokemon, 2 level 20s, a 25, and a 5. So it's really just a 4% chance I have the Pokemon he's looking for on any given attempt, and I have to get it 3 times in a row to get a Focus Sash. Now, it is renewable, so I can get multiple Focus Sashes, and that could be really helpful. For those of you who don't know, the Focus Sash is a really cool item, but it is a one-time use that if you are hit with full HP, and it would take you down to 0, you survive with 1 HP. This could be really useful in order to set up against Sneasel, since it one-shots everything that isn't Torterra. But yeah, getting it is extremely tedious. Now, I know I'm going to regret saying this, but I actually got really, really lucky, and it only took like 20 minutes to get the Focus Sash, which is really, really good. All right, so attempts versus Candace take 2. Here is my new idea. So what I can do is I have Focus Sash on my Togetic, thus I tank the attack, and I go for Charm, and now it's -2 in attack. That's the idea so far. Now, I can actually swap in Porygon, and watch this. I can Trick a Choice Specs. Trick allows me to swap items with the opponent, giving it the Choice Specs, which means it can only select one move and gets a boost to its special attack, and of course it has no special moves. So now it's locked into Slash, meaning I can send out Cranidos. And with Cranidos, I can thus set up a Stealth Rock, and even a Rock Tomb if I so choose. Things are looking pretty good, right? Well, there's a couple problems. We'll talk about them in a second. All right, Torterra, you got this. Go for Leech Seed, and now, oh, that crit sucks. We can set up all the curses we want because it's locked into a pretty weak slash. And as we gain back our HP and gain stats, we're gonna make Candace waste her very valuable potion. Everything's looking amazing. GG, right? Everything is going J-Rose's way. Well, just wait. So after I set up all my curses and I'm at full HP, everything's looking fantastic. I go for Earthquake, I knock out the Sneasel, and now out comes a Bomb of Snow. I'm easily gonna one-shot it. It goes for Focus Blast as opposed to Avalanche. That's okay. I knock it out. Things are looking fine, right? Well, now I just need a 20% chance. Oh my... Wait, what? Oh, God. So, yeah. I actually do know what happened there. So Frostlass has the Snow Cloak ability, giving it increased evasion in a hailstorm, which we are in a hailstorm. So even though I got the 20% chance and I could have won there and then, it just wasn't meant to be. Oh my God, I can't believe that just happened. I can't believe that just happened. It's not like it'll take another hour for me to defeat Candace. All right, there was another problem with this strategy that I didn't realize. When you trick an item in Gen 4, the item is actually permanently lost. I didn't know that. Obviously, this battle I'm going to reset. I just wanted to see, like, if that was the case. And yeah, it's true of both trainer and wild Pokemon. If you trick an item... All right, I'm going to try to run away. You'll see that my Porygon no longer is holding the choice specs, which is a problem. Because if I want to use the strategy against Cyrus, or even against the Elite Four, and by the way, I actually did test this against a trainer, and it's the same result. If you trick an item, it's gone. I didn't know that. Kind of cool. Or bad for me, but cool to learn. Thus, we're going to have to cut Trick out of the plan. It's not the end of the world. In fact, it could be for the better. I'll show you why. So we're going to start the exact same way. No reason to alter it. It's a great strat. Get that charm off. -2 in attack. Really important. Now, rather than going into Porygon, we will go directly into Torterra. And the fact of the matter is, as we start to use our curses, although the Ice Shard is far more effective than Slash, we're still maintaining a bit of an equilibrium. We do lose more HP than we gain for a little while, but as we start to build up the curses, we do get a lot of it back. And after the Hyper Potion, we're at 107. It's not ideal, and actually we're hit again, so we're going to be down to 95. But if we get a couple Quick Claws, it could be good. So now against a Bomb of Snow, it goes for Focus Blast and misses. I go for Return. Unfortunately, here is where I have to do something I don't really want to do. I'm going to swap into Vaporeon and let it use Blizzard. It hits. Now it only has 4 Blizzards remaining. So if I swap into Porygon, I thought it would go for Shadow Ball since it's not very effective. Now I go for Protect, and look at that. It went for Blizzard. 3 Blizzards remaining. Well, now I can go into Vaporeon, and it goes for Blizzard. 2 Blizzards remaining. And now all I gotta do is go back into Porygon, and I can go for Protect. That's 1 Blizzard remaining. And yeah, now it's out of Blizzards, right? It's gonna go for Blizzard here. I go for Protect. I didn't even need to double Protect there. It's out of Blizzards. So we're good, right? Not only that, but I have no item on Porygon. I could trick the Citrus Berry onto Porygon, taken away from Frostlass. Now, Frostlass does start to use Double Team, and as we've learned, with Snow Cloak and now Double Team, hitting it's going to be a real problem. We're doing okay so far, but this is going to become really, really terrible soon. Eventually, Frostlass decides, all right, time to attack, which makes sense. But now there's no real obvious path forward. I mean, if it's going to stall and I hit it with a Leech Seed, that could be super great. But right now, it's hitting me with Psychic. Ooh, there's a Leech Seed. So that's good. But I can't really hit it, can I? It goes for Shadow Ball. I mean, okay, I can see, like, the sort of outline of a strategy. This is missing something. Cranidos hasn't been used either. This is missing something. We're close. We're close. I have the pieces. I just need to put this all together. All right, so here's what I think we're going to do. The beginning is going to be exactly the same, Charm and Feint. That's the first idea. Now, same thing here. We go for Leech Seed. We go for all the curses. Exactly the exact same thing. But actually, rather than letting it heal here, I think I'm just going to knock it out at 90 HP. Because we don't need all the curses. We just need enough to knock out the Abomasnow in one hit, which I think I do there. So that's good. Now, we already know Frostlass cannot one-shot the Vaporeon. So we're going to send out Vaporeon. It goes for Blizzard. That's 4 Blizzards remaining. Hail hits it. And I'm going to swap into Porygon here. Now, we know it's going to go for Shadow Ball, which is fine. And then I go for Protect. 3 Blizzards. So the same strategy. I mean, I can just skip through this. You guys already know what's going to happen here. And I have Snow Cloak, by the way, which is kind of cool. So it might miss me. Here's where Cranidos is going to come into play. Cranidos is actually going to take the last Blizzard because I like the Porygon to remain, since you may have noticed Porygon has a new move up its sleeve, and that move is Toxic. Now, even though this thing is going to try and evade everything, as long as I hit it with a Toxic, eventually it is going to faint, which is really nice. Now, hopefully it actually knocks me out first. Actually, it looks like in this battle, it might knock me out the same turn it gets knocked out due to the poison. That's exactly what happens. And now all we need is to one-shot the Piloswine. Please just one-shot the Piloswine. Oh, wait. I needed Woodhammer. Oh, I needed Woodhammer. Oh, this isn't going to one-shot. Oh, we're so close. If I had Woodhammer, we would have won. It's this exact strategy. Just with Woodhammer, we would have had it. We would have had this. Unfortunately, it would take over 40 minutes to get back to Piloswine. Why? Oh god, so many things. Missing Toxic. Oh, also, want to see something fun? Sometimes Frostlass just decides it wants to use Psychic. Why does it want to use Psychic? I don't know, but that screws up everything. It felt like to win this battle, everything needed to go right. And finally, after a couple of hours of attempts, we got one last magical battle. Everything is exactly as we've described it before. It just no crits by the Sneasel. That's something that ended quite a few runs. Also, Abomasnow can crit, and that would be a big problem. The Frostlass cooperated with us. And the Frostlass strat just... I tried to use Citrus Berries. I thought it would help, and sometimes it did, and sometimes the Frostlass would act a little differently because of it. Really frustrating, I'll be honest with you guys. Sometimes Toxic would just miss, and sometimes Porygon would survive a little bit too long, but finally, everything worked out. I was at 71 HP, which is just enough that if I use Woodhammer, I have 24 remaining. And that battle you saw, I got so close. It took over 2 hours of strategy, prep, battles over and over and over again, and use of pretty much every single Pokemon, except for Cranidos. But they all played a role, all the moves, all the items, and I didn't even have to use Trick, and I was able to beat Candace. And after 6 hours, that was enough of minimum battles for that stream. And after all that frustrations, I decided to take a few days away from the challenge. 4 days later. Already, I have spent more time on Platinum Minimum Battles than the entirety of Diamond, remembering how bad Cyrus and the whole Mount Coronet part was. We haven't even gotten there yet. Just keep that in mind. We're at 53 battles, which is 2 fewer than Diamond and Pearl, so still doing a little bit better, but it's starting to get really close. Remember, we were at like -5 at one point. Now, to this point, we have to make our way back to Veilstone City and do the Galactic HQ part, which is mostly identical to Diamond and Pearl, which means we have 2 solo grunts and then a double grunt battle before we face Cyrus, although in this case, it's a rematch versus Cyrus. I am so sick of seeing Sneasel. I really don't like the Pokemon. It goes for Ice Punch and does quite a bit. So, yeah. Back to this nonsense. Thankfully, I get Quick Claw return, so that's kind of nice, but as we know, it's going to be a flying Pokemon, and... oh, actually, we tanked that! Unfortunately, oh, wait, if we get another Quick Claw, we actually might win here. Oh, well. Oh, God, more of this. I didn't want this again. Remember, Focus Sash is a one-time use item, so I don't have one for Togetic. Now, I had to try a bunch of things, and remember how Cranidos wasn't useful before? Well, Quick Claw Cranidos! Hey, look at that! Setting up Stealth Rocks, this is important for some damage ranges. Then into Vaporeon, it goes for Slash, and we actually, as I've learned, can tank that, which is super important, although not always on 1 HP. Then Sneasel goes for Screech. I go for Earthquake. The Screech actually wasn't expected, but isn't a big deal, since the Crobat is going to go for Air Cutter, a special move, and with the Stealth Rocks, that's going to put the Crobat in healing range, meaning I can go for Leech Seed, gain a little bit of health back. Now, because of Screech, I'm actually going to swap in Togetic. I don't want to have minus defense. That would be kind of bad. And, of course, that means no Leech Seed this turn. Crobat goes for Supersonic, meaning I'm going to have to probably swap again, which is super annoying. Or I could just kind of... Nah, I'm not going to chance it. I'm going to go into Porygon here. It's going to go for the Air Cutter. And actually, I gained some HP back. It didn't knock me out. This could be bad, but thankfully Air Cutter does just enough. Remember, no more Quick Claw on Torterra. I really don't want to see... Supersonic, but it missed. And I went for Curse. Oh, no. Thankfully, it went for Air Cutter, and I get a second Curse. So that's super useful, and probably just won me the battle, because Honchkrow is a physical attacker. It's going to go for Drill Peck, and with the 2 Curses, we're able to tank it. I also have a Citrus Berry. You may have seen those used versus Candace. I have a whole bunch of them now. But yeah, that required every single Pokemon and some decent luck. And this is just the second Cyrus battle. He has another battle, a harder one. That's coming soon. First, we have to battle Saturn. This time, instead of Stealth Rock, I go for the Rock Tomb. And then I get Quick Claw, so I get Stealth Rock as well, which is super great. Now, Torterra, I'm going to go for Return. I don't want to get poisoned here. And I think the crit mattered, but whatever. I'm at level 49. Toxicroak. I'm not going to outspeed, am I? No, it goes for X-Scissor, which is super effective, but I'm bulky enough it doesn't do too much. I knock it out. And then the final Pokemon is Bronzor. Oh, the Stealth Rock was pointless. Oh yeah, I forgot about this. This is just going to take a while, but we have a... Actually, didn't actually take that long. We have an assured easy victory. Nice! But here's the part I've kind of been dreading. Mount Coronet, remember how terrible this was? There are still 4 grunts I need to fight in the mountain first. But then we have to do the awful Mars-Jupiter double battle. Now, because they both lead with Bronzor, I can't just go for Earthquake and knock them out. I can do Leech Seed and slowly knock them out. Once again, we have Barry's awful and useless Munchlax, which is awful and useless. I also call this a double battle. That's not true. It's a multi-battle. If it was a double battle, this actually wouldn't be that big a deal because I know how to organize my own Pokemon that would actually be good for me, but, you know, can't do that. Anyway, I'm just going to set up a whole bunch of curses so we can fast forward until the first Bronzor faints, and actually they both faint the same turn. That brings out Purugly and Skuntank. I can just go for Earthquake at this point. Purugly doesn't do much, but Skunktank's Flamethrower is a crit! Of course it's a crit! It's also... Alright, well that's... I was going to say it's also a special move, but yeah, that sucks. That's awful. Thankfully, this battle is actually a lot easier than the Diamond and Pearl version. That was just really bad luck, and part of it is because I didn't really have control over what would faint when. You really want the 1 Bronzor remaining before you have to fight 2 at once, because you can knock out Purugly, and then if you knock out Purugly, Bronzor is pretty useless. You can just kind of leave it there. This time, however, we got double Golbat all the way across the sky, and I got a really clutch Quick Claw. They're still using special moves like Sludge Bomb, but I've got it to a 2v1, which is fine. And now, as long as Skuntank isn't terrible and actually it attacked the Munchlax, that was pretty perfect. But this is where the games differ radically from like a plot perspective and from an annoyance perspective. You see, in Diamond and Pearl, you have to immediately battle Cyrus, and if you lose, you have to battle Mars and Jupiter again. But we get control of our character and get to go to the Distortion World. Now, I absolutely hate the Distortion World. I loved it as a kid, but I hate it as an adult. Another big difference, though, is after beating Mars and Jupiter, the game lets you leave. You actually don't have to go to the Distortion World right now. You can go and grab rare candies and plan for the Cyrus battle. So, you know, there are lots of things about Platinum that are more tough or more annoying, but certainly this is a huge plus for Platinum Run. This was legit one of the worst moments I've had in a run in Diamond and Pearl. I do, though, hate the Distortion World. And the reason I hate it is, although it was really cool, and I did think this was super cool when I played it as a kid, but like as an adult, it's just kind of a terrible auto-scroller in a way. I mean, okay, that's not completely fair. I mean, you can definitely, like, from a speedrunning perspective, gain and lose time, but there's really not that much you actually do. You just kind of walk from one place to another, and there's, like, cool effects, but you're not, like, jumping or doing any platforming, or, like, there's, like, sort of puzzles at one point, but not even really. It just kind of wastes your time. Again, I like when Pokemon tries this stuff. I find it's almost never good, like the Generation 8 and 9 gym challenges. I just find they only kind of do battle systems really well. But when they try to do something outside their wheelhouse, it always feels like a pale imitation of a much better section from a different video game. Anyway, after like literally 15 minutes of just doing nothing, you get to battle Cyrus. Now, Cyrus leads with Houndoom, so I led with Vaporeon. Unfortunately for me, Thunderfang is enough to knock it out, so we're not going to be able to lead with Vaporeon. Maybe Porygon could work with, I don't know, let's try Trick. Yeah, that's not going to work either. This could be a real problem. Could Cranidos Quick Claw be effective, maybe? Well, not if it doesn't get Quick Claw. Alright, well... Now, obviously I could just lead with Torterra, and how does that go? Well, Flamethrower basically knocks me out in one hit. I'm able to knock out the Houndoom, but then it's Weavile. And, oh boy, a Leech Seed. But yeah, every move it has is going to knock me out. Looking at Cyrus's team, I literally could not think of a team better suited to battle a Torterra. I mean, Houndoom has a special fire move, Crobat's a special flying move, Honchkrow has special flyer or physical flying, Gyarados has Ice Fang, although it has only physical moves, but it also has Intimidate, and of course Weavile has Ice Punch. I wonder if I really messed up, if this is the point where maybe I shouldn't have picked Torterra. I mean, heck, I don't think Togekiss would have had an easier job, but maybe Vaporeon? I don't know, guys. This doesn't look good. But before we give up, I did have a couple ideas. First things first, Quick Claw Cranidos with Stealth Rock is going to be able to help. But wait, J-Rose, shouldn't you have slowed it down? Well, I had 13 rare candies I was saving, and this is when I really need to use them, because with 13 rare candies, I have just enough speed to outspeed Houndoom and get past it. Unfortunately, it's not enough to outspeed Weavile. We do get Citrus Berry Recovery, and with the Stealth Rock, we have enough to knock out Weavile, but now out comes the Honchkrow. We outspeed and go for return. Actually, we knock it out. Wait, are we just going to win? Holy moly, this could be easier than I thought. Crobat goes, flinch. Well, do we knock it out with return? Yes. Yes, we do. But now Gyarados lowers my attack. I might be able to get this here, but I need some luck. Gyarados goes for Earthquake. That's annoying, but not the end of the world. I need... All right. I guess I'll just go for return. I had... just not enough attack to knock it out. But I didn't want to mention this when it came to Candace, because I figured I might need them later. But yeah, there are lots of rare candies you can get. And these aren't rare candies from like pickup or like infinite rare candies. These are ones just available one time only in the world. And I've been saving them for a moment like this. Cyrus went from looking like he was going to be impossible to honestly, if I had maybe gone for Porygon, I could have maybe gotten off Toxic and actually won. So this is looking really doable. Truth be told, the biggest problem was just Cranidos and Quick Claw. Now, funny enough, in this situation, I don't even get it. I just get a clutch 5% Thunderfang miss. That was not what I was expecting. And I'm very, very lucky that Torterra is fast enough to outspeed Houndoom. If it weren't, this wouldn't go very well. But yeah, Weavile needed not to freeze or crit, but it doesn't do either. Honchkrow, you can see I've swapped to Rock Slide. I've had this for a while. You get this in Mount Coronet, and I've been holding on to it, but felt like it was the right time to use it because now I don't even need to swap or do anything. I mean, I will just to be super safe, but I didn't need to. In fact, it went for Ice Fang. Actually, it knocked it out, although with a crit with Ice Fang, that's crazy. But yeah, 10% chance to miss. Also, the way I said crazy, by the way, that's not an effect. I was going to delete that, but I just don't know how I did that with my voice, and I need to leave it in there. That sounded like a robot. I don't even know what happened there. So cool. I wish I could figure that out. That sounds awesome. Anyway, we won. That's also awesome. And I wonder if, like its predecessors, the game's going to get a lot easier. Remember, after we beat Cyrus and Diamond and Pearl, because we had to level up so much, the game became really easy, but we did have a traded Pokemon. I don't think Volkner is going to be too big a deal because, you know, ground Pokemon. But the Elite Four could also be okay, but they're way better than they are in Diamond and Pearl. Like, they actually know how to select moves. So let's hold our horses. One thing I mentioned before we get too far into the game, you can just run from the legendary battle, and because of that, it doesn't count as a battle. It's just like any other wild battle. So that's why we can't catch Dialga, Palkia, Giratina. Only when they are mandatory can we use them. The black and white minimum battles is going to be really fun because we're going to be able to use a Zekrom or Reshiram. But in most of the games, the legendary Pokemon count as optional battles, and thus we cannot use them. Although considering Giratina's only at level 47, I just actually think Torterra would be better, but that's neither here nor there. Alright, so we're at 64 battles. We're going to head to Route 222 to head to Sunyshore, and this sailor is the same sailor we fight in Diamond and Pearl, and that is going to be our 65th battle before we head to Sunyshore Gym, which unfortunately is identical to Diamond and Pearl, meaning there are lots and lots and lots of mandatory battles. In fact, I wonder if that's a record. 6 mandatory battles? I wonder if any gym throughout the series has that many mandatory battles. I specify mandatory because as someone who plays a lot of Gen 1, Cinnabar Gym has a ton of trainers. I think it has 8. And I don't actually know how many are in Viridian Gym, but could be more than that. Most of them are skippable in Viridian, and all of them are skippable in Cinnabar. So 6 might be the most for mandatory trainers. I don't know. Alright, well, sadly, Volkner is going to be kind of anticlimactic. Since we're 20 levels higher with a super effective Pokemon, I'm just going to go for Earthquake against Jolteon, and then Raichu, and then Luxray, and then Electivire, and it one-shots all of them. It is what it is. I mean, we struggled enough, right? And it's time to head to the Elite Four. But, unlike Red Blue and Fire Red Leaf Green, it's not just a straight shot with one mandatory trainer on the way. There are several additional trainers we're going to have to battle before we get to the Elite Four, both leading to Victory Road and then within Victory Road itself. In fact, even one more in the Pokemon League building. On Route 223, there's only one mandatory battle. Actually, all these battles are exactly the same. I don't know if they're the same teams, but like the same battles as they are in Diamond and Pearl. The swimmer was mandatory there. He's mandatory now, and he's the only mandatory trainer before we get to Victory Road. And on Victory Road, there are a ton of mandatory trainers. Starting with this Ace trainer, there are 8 mandatory battles, bringing our total as we get to the building to 81. And as I said, there's one more battle we have to do before we face the Elite Four. The 6th and final battle against Barry, so not quite the 7 you have to fight against the rival in Red and Blue, but it's close. Once again, we don't want Torterra leading, and I'm hoping for, obviously, Quick Claw. I don't get it, but I think we should be fine. I have Rock Slide, and I actually outspeed Staraptor that had its defense dropped. Heracross is next, and I just go for Rock Slide. Not enough to one-shot, but with close combat, its defense is lowered. Doesn't really matter. I'm going to knock it out with Rock Slide. Infernape is next. It's going to go for a special move in Flamethrower. That does a ton. And so I might actually need some strategy here. That's unfortunate, but it is what it is. Floatzel's next, and yeah, Ice Fang's going to knock me out. So this is not going to just be an easy piece of cake, but I think we got this. All right, so I'm going to lead with Togetic. I could have led with Porygon, to be honest with you, but it doesn't really matter. Once the Intimidate happens, I can just go straight into Torterra and go for Rock Slide, because we've already learned that we outspeed. So Togetic made for very good fodder. Heracross, I'm actually going to swap here to Porygon, because my hope is that it went for close combat, which lowers its defense, meaning I should be able to one-shot it now, I think. Is this enough? I want it to be. It isn't quite, but we get the flinch, so good enough. Unfortunately, my math was a little off. Now we can get hit by Infernape, and we should have more than enough HP for the rest. Ooh, wow. That did a lot. Yikes. Flint is not going to be fun. So Floatzel now comes out. I'm actually going to want to swap into Cranidos here. It goes for Ice Fang. Again, you can tell this AI actually knows what it's doing. Now, I don't have Toxic anymore because I've needed to teach things like Waterfall and Surf. Sadly, that means I can't really do much, and I have to just tank the Ice Fang and hope for the best after that. Thankfully, it is a one-shot with Earthquake, and I actually outspeed Roserade, and it's a one-shot with Earthquake. But now that Munchlax that I hated is a Snorlax, and Earthquake probably won't one-shot it. It goes for Body Slam, and yikes. We're so close. But one more time, I needed to reset for the Stealth Rocks. That should help with all those terrible damage ranges that exist. It goes for Steel Wing, which I didn't like because could raise its defense, but we hit with Rock Slide, we knock it out. Heracross, now same thing. Want to swap into Togetic actually is fine here, but it went for Night Slash, which I didn't like. I'm going to go to Porygon. Obviously doesn't know what I'm swapping in. I go for Protect. It went for Night Slash. Why? Then it goes for Aerial Ace. Oh, this isn't what I want to see. Okay. Let's go to Vaporeon. Go for Close Combat. There we go. I had to waste all my Pokemon, but I needed you to do that. Unfortunate that's not consistent. And this isn't either. It can miss 10% of the time. Thankfully, we don't get a miss. Infernape, unfortunately, no Quick Claw, but it goes for Shadow Claw? Why? Wait, why? That's weird. Why? Wait, why did it do that? I don't understand, actually. I need help. I have no idea why it did that. That just completely threw. I'm actually annoyed now. Why did it do that? I can go for Leech Seed now, and yeah, I mean, also I have the Citrus Berry, which I forgot to equip last time, but that's kind of annoying. That didn't even feel good. It just, all right, sure. Gyros from like 3 years ago would reset to get a better battle, but like, no. I've been at this for a long time. A win is a win. Whatever. Barry wants to throw. I'm not going to tell him not to. All right. So, since that was our 82nd battle, and there are 5 battles remaining, there are 87 battles in Platinum, 2 less than Diamond and Pearl. That answers the question of how many battles there are. But now can we actually win all those battles? It's a very different and probably more important question. Let's see how we do with the Bug-type trainer, Aaron. Aaron seems like another trainer where we're going to have to do a lot of resetting for Cranidos to get Stealth Rocks. And thankfully, in my very first attempt, I get it. It U-turns, which is amazing because that means it's going to be at 50%. Scizor comes out. I am just going to go for Earthquake here. I think that's the right call. It is neutral damage and enough to knock it out. Perfect. I am at 70, and then Yanmega comes in. Since it's yellow, I think that means it has an even number of HP. It goes for Double Team, which is fine. And then Air Slash, that's less fine. I'm going to go Porygon here. I really would like this thing to go for U-turn. There we go. And now Heracross is in. Porygon faints. I go into Torterra. And then this has close combat, right? No, it has Mega Horn. I guess Sand Attack and Stone Edge. Okay, I think it doesn't actually have close combat. I'm going to go Rock Slide here, and then Mega Horn misses. Okay, great. All right, so now Yanmega did not have. All right, that's unfortunate, but since the full restore was used, it both wastes full restore and easy one-shot. Vespiquen is at 50%, but also, oh, well, that's unfortunate, but even at 100%, easy one-shot with Rock Slide, and then Drapion isn't actually a bug, and it has Ice Fang, and it outspeeds, but since it's not a bug, I can use super effective Earthquake, and that is 1 down, 4 to go. All right, next, the trainer of the Eartha, Elite 4 member Bertha. Now, I don't actually have a grass move right now, so we're going to see if I can get away with not using one. I'm going to try just going for the good old Leech Seed Curse strats and see if it works. Whiscash really doesn't have a great counter to that, so I'm going to try and set up as many curses as I can. I don't want to see Spit F drops from Earth Power. So far, things are looking really good. We have all 6 set up, and then Earthquake one-shots Whiscash. Gliscor is next. Ice Fang sucks. Why does everything have Ice Fang? But thankfully, we both one-shot and are not frozen. Golem is next. I go for Earthquake. It actually outspeeds, which isn't surprising. I have very much lowered my speed. And no burn, which is great. Rhyperior, I actually outspeed it still, which is hilarious. And we one-shot it with Earthquake. This is looking like I didn't need a grass move after all. And Hippowdon goes for Crunch. I go for Earthquake, and that is easily going to one-shot it at +6. Yep, didn't even need a grass move to beat Bertha. Great. Flint could be a problem. Now, I've been saving Rock Polish. I don't think I actually outspeed it. Oh, I miscalculated. I do. That's wonderful, but I still have increased speed, and I one-shot. I'm at half HP. That's not the biggest deal. Easily going to one-shot Flareon. We might actually have this because of the Rock Polish. Rapidash is next. I don't think I outsped that without the Rock Polish. That's 3 down. Wow, this might be easier than I thought. Magmortar, as long as we one-shot this, I can't see why we wouldn't. Yeah, we got this, right? What's the last Pokemon? It's Infernape. I mean, this should be easy. Okay. All right, easy. Easy. Okay, that was not how I expected that to go, but I'm not complaining. Next is the Psychic-type trainer, Lucian. So far, the Elite Four has kind of been a joke, but Kadabra struggled here, although Psychic on Psychic is probably why. Mr. Mime versus Torterra. I'm going to go for Curse. Light Screen's not a problem. And do I just set up more curses? Actually, you know what? Let me go for Rock Polish. This is actually an interesting kind of combo. I use Curse, which raises everything. Oh, actually, that's a problem with the crit. All right, let me go for another Rock Polish. See, the problem is now I have to kind of wait out the Reflect. I should still one-shot this because its defense is so bad. And actually, I probably should still one-shot the Espeon. And now the Reflect should fail. All right, but it's Bronzong. Oh, yeah. Okay, so I actually did more than I thought, and it flinched. This could be fine. Psychic. All right, full restore. I expected that. Ooh, miss. That's a problem. I could be fine, though. Psychic, nah. Unless I get a flinch or a crit, we lost. All right, well, we're bound to lose eventually. That initial crit by Mr. Mime proved very costly. Now, I'm not saving between Elite Four members, which is sometimes mandatory, but isn't in this challenge. I'm not saying this to brag or anything. It's actually important because the Rock Polish strat seemed to be unnecessary because I outsped Houndoom, and I think I outspeed everything else. The Rapidash, as I kind of projected, I don't, but since it went for Bounce, I kind of just swapped in Porygon and then hoped for a better move next time. So I go into Torterra being like, oh, don't go for Bounce, and it went for Sunny Day, which is better than Bounce. And then Magmortar I outsped. Unfortunately, I don't actually outspeed the Infernape, which I was worried about. I'm trying to stall out the Sun now because the Sun's a little scary, and it took a few turns and all my Pokemon, but I was able to stall out the Sun, which means I shouldn't be knocked out by anything that Infernape uses, such as Flare Blitz. I actually probably wouldn't have been knocked out anyway, looking at that damage, but I didn't need Rock Polish, and that's big because now against Lucian, I still have Leech Seed. That's a big reason why you shouldn't save between Elite Four members, because you don't know when you're going to need something. This time I just knock out Mr. Mime immediately because, oh, I actually don't outspeed Espeon, which makes sense. And a crit. Wow, Espeon, that was a jerk move. However, I should be fine because of Bronzong. If I go for Leech Seed, all right, Calm Mind. Wow, actually, that's a problem. It didn't do that last time. What do I want to do? This is kind of a problem. All right, let's go Porygon here. Okay, it goes Calm Mind again. Now, oh, actually, maybe this is where we use Trick Choice Specs. Oh, I don't think I have Choice Specs on it. No, I don't. That would have worked, but, okay. Need a flinch or something. See, Psychic now with all those Calm Minds. Yeah, it's too much damage. I might be able to stall this out. We'll see. Not all the Psychics, but I might... Vaporeon, I don't have Protect anymore. I could use that. All right. Bronzong's a little tougher. Once again, Lucian is proving to be very difficult. It's good to see something in the Elite Four is. But yeah, sadly, Leech Seed doesn't activate if I get fainted. Ooh, actually, wait, no, it's going to heal. It's going to heal. That's unfortunate. Yeah, full restore, and I have no chance. Or do I? So just went for Calm Mind again. I might have a slight chance. Wait, no, not anymore. Wait, actually, no, that worked out. We knocked it out, but now Alakazam's just getting, yeah. I mean, we saw Alakazam, so new PB. All right, after that loss, I went back in the overworld and got a bunch of items and TMs I could use, and you're going to see one of them in use. Gone is Curse, and hello, Swords Dance. I don't really need the defense boost as much anymore, and I now get double the attack boost and no more lowering my speed. So once I attach Leech Seed to Mr. Mime, I'm just going to try and stall it out. I do now just waste my Swords Dance, but I really would prefer not to have Reflect up. And thankfully, Porygon does an amazing job stalling, and I'm going to knock it out. Ow, again. I got greedy. It's my bad. All right, fine. We're just going to go with Reflect up. It actually shouldn't be too big a deal because it's actually going to be Espeon. Of course, Signal Beam's going to hit. This time it doesn't crit, which is nice. And then it's going to be Bronzong. And with Swords Dance, I probably will do enough damage to... Oh, well, of course, it misses turn one. I still have the Citrus Berry, and now Leech Seed hits. Psychic. No. Come on, Spidef Drop. I knew that was coming. All right, I have to swap here now to Cranidos. So annoying. All right, I only have one more fodder Pokemon left. So I'm going to go Swords Dance. Calm Mind. Expected that. I have 169. I'm going to go... Of course it misses Rock Slide, and then, of course, Psychic hits. Well, it has to hit. Then I go for Rock Slide. No flinch. Okay, is he going to heal? Yeah, I was worried that he wouldn't. If I need a flinch or I lose. Come on, give me a flinch. Give me a flinch. No. Oh, well, I don't lose yet, but I think Alakazam just outspeeds me, right? Oh, well, it did, but it went for Focus Blast. Okay, well, who knew that? Wait, is Gallade gonna outspeed? No, it won't. Take that. That's the second time in this run that, for whatever reason, they just decided to throw. First Barry, now Lucian. I don't understand. I don't know why this is happening, but I'm not gonna complain. We have made it to what many consider the toughest champion in Pokemon history. It has taken, even with increased speed, 14 hours, that is 5 hours more than Diamond and Pearl, to do this. 18 hours of in-game time. That's significant because it should be about a 2 to 4 times multiplier. The fact they're almost 1-to-1 shows how tough every single battle has been. But if I can first try Cynthia, it'll feel pretty good, no? Well, let's see if that's even remotely possible. It is the final battle, battle 87. Let's go. Okay, so I'm just going to go Leech Seed. Silverwind. It could get an Omniboost here, but it only has 5 power points. I'm going to go for Swords Dance, get a +2. Silverwind, no Omniboost, and I'm at 156. I go for Earthquake, easy gonna one-shot. All right, Togekiss is next. I still have Rock Slide for flying Pokemon, like Togekiss, and we one-shot. Easy peasy. Milotic, I have Earthquake. It's the strongest move other than Wood Hammer I could use. It's enough to one-shot. That's 3 down and level 73. But Garchomp outspeeds, goes for Flamethrower. No burn, though. Citrus Berry gives a ton of HP back, and I knock out the Garchomp. We may have this. Roserade outspeeds, goes for Sludge Bomb, but we then knock it out in one hit. There is one Pokemon remaining. It is Lucario. Can we outspeed? No. Well, that's disappointing. But maybe I can win with my other Pokemon. No, it just goes for Extreme Speed. Maybe I can win with my... No, okay. All right, well, take 2. This time, I'm not going to bother with the Leech Seed. I think it actually was not a good use of my time. I have way more HP now. That was a mistake. So, okay, we've knocked out the Spiritomb. And then Togekiss. Very good. We know Milotic is next, and we know we one-shot it. So, Garchomp, just don't burn. And, of course, it burns. Oh, that really sucks. That really, really sucks. Of course, we don't one-shot Garchomp anymore, and we're hurt by burn, and then it burns us with the Flamethrower. Well, I mean, it doesn't burn us, but, like, you know what I mean. And, yeah, now Roserade comes out. Oh, it's a speed tie. Well, that's cool to know. I lose. Is there a way I could possibly beat Lucario with, like, these guys? I mean, I have the Trick Choice Specs, and in theory, I could do that on Extreme Speed. But there's no way to have both Choice Specs and a Focus Sash. Otherwise, like if it had Sturdy from Gen 5, I could do that. That would be pretty funny. I could Rock Polish, but... Oh yeah, I guess I don't need Leech Seed, right? I'm not using it. Let me try once more without it, and if I need it, I think that's the play. But, alright. We're going to do Swords Dance, Silverwind, that's fine. Because the reason I'm trying one more time is we had the Speed Tie bad luck, and the burn bad luck. What if we don't get the bad 50-50 coin flip and the bad like 10% burn? So we've made it to Milotic now. Earthquake. We're going to be at the Garchomp. Now please just cooperate. Flamethrower we knew was coming. Alright. Alright. Now we need the speed tie. Come on, Roserade. Let's go. Let's go. I think that's it, guys. I think that's it. I don't think this can knock me out. It goes for Aura Sphere. Not nearly enough. 96 HP remaining at level 75. Torterra has conquered Sinnoh in just 87 battles, becoming another minimum battle champion. Joining Kadabra, Kenya the Fearow, Scyther, Mr. Mime. Wow, I've used such random Pokemon for these challenges. I don't know if I will say this is the most difficult challenge. I think Sapphire still wins that one in a bit of a landslide. But this definitely is up there. Significantly more challenging, less frustrating, but more challenging than Diamond and Pearl. And now, to complete Gen 4, I have to do Heart Gold Soul Silver, which may take the cake as the most difficult one yet, because Red is one of the toughest trainers in Pokemon history. Will we be able to overcome him with the minimum battles? It's like 100 battles, to be fair, but still, his Pokemon are almost level 100. Not sure when I'll get to that, but if you want to see it, let me know. Until then, thank you for watching this video. Take care, everyone.